Martin Amidu akane ho biom na munim say it is a tradition on my platform. Se time bia Martin Amidu ede ne write-ups no enye ni na de, but most of the write-ups no the ba na me ba bekenkan because my mama say I love to read what Martin Amidu says. Na wakasa afa koko insensem eho. Wo hwe koko insensem we ba wakasa afa ho. Na let me give you heads up. Munim say Martin Amidu wa wakasa afa koko insensem ho de unim say obebo His Excellency John Dramani Mahama echi. Oh, and just expect it. Say Martin Amidu bebo Mahama echi. Ati ase. And so before we go into it, no mema wonti ase. Mema wati ase sa. Say obebo Mahama echi. And so we are going to go into it. And that your first time Wahama, subscribe and click the notification bell on so. We are the latest news be about onsa ebeka. Me guswa kai ebusian for wa wutie me no. Learn how to invest in Ghana. Sianse ni ube investi ewo my way mu. Se usika no order ewo se usika no ewo ema. Book na that screen so no friend the Ghanaian investor. Ebe trail investments are ekoso wo Ghana ha. Ebema usika no aso abapa. Se oye Ghana ni na outside Ghana. Obetumi nya book no Amazon. Oko Amazon just type for the Ghanaian investor or search for the Ghanaian investor. You see the book. Oto a yebe shepia ba bibia obia. Ghana number ni 0558074986. Free. And I WhatsApp is our number no. There is a link in the comment box. Obetumi afre and also no wa download the book no. Atu phone so. Now young concept nimo. I say President Mahama transforms national democracy into a property owning democracy. The rural cocoa farmer can go to hell by Martin ABK Amidu. Inti utie ensemo Martin Amidu wokan obeso tre say His Excellency John Dramani Mahama or sesa NDC na cocoa for Mahama beso tre say muhu ye ni hwe masa mopa mo nkoshepo Martin Amidu nsemo wokan no say asemo His Excellency John Dramani Mahama wo country cocoa farmers. Now I say the President Mahama government's deception and failure to honor the agreements it willingly reached with stakeholders of the cocoa sector, particularly the mass of rural cocoa farmers who made up the bulk of the industry for the 2025-2026 cocoa season on Tuesday, 2nd October 2025, to increase the producer price of cocoa to 3,625 per bag, or 58,000 Ghana cedis per ton, representing an increase of about 400 cedis per bag, equivalent to a 12.27 rise over the price announced in August 2025, with a new price to take effect on Friday, 3rd October 2025, has exposed the real nature of a government pretending to be committed to the national democratic ethos of development. The President Mahama government had no intention of honoring the agreement at the time it was made, as demonstrated by its failure or refusal to pay the poor rural cocoa farmers whose entire livelihood depends on farming and selling cocoa to sustain millions of their families, leading to agitations from November 2025 calling on the cocoa board and the government to pay for their produce they had already bought and to buy those still at the farm gate. It had to take advocacy by Joy News, editorial comments by the Ghanaian Chronicle newspaper and other media to galvanize the people for President Mahama to scramble to call an emergency cabinet session for tomorrow, Wednesday, 11th February 2026, to address all issues affecting the cocoa sector. The results of the emergency cabinet meeting, instead of ameliorating the financial plight of the poor rural cocoa farmer, led to a reduction of the agreed and expected receipts from the produce of their labor in the name of addressing the ongoing liquidity crisis in the cocoa sector. Also, on Wednesday, 12 February 2026, President Mahama's most trusted confidant, who hold the portfolios of Minister of Finance and Acting Minister for Defense, Dr. Kesel Atufosin, with thank in cheek, addressed the nation on the outcome of the emergency cabinet meeting intended to introduce sweeping reforms aimed at stabilizing the cocoa industry in Ghana, ensuring fair prices for farmers and promoting long-term sustainability. On the same day, President Mahama, who had supervised the cocoa sector for over 1 full year since his assumption of office, jetted off to the 39th Assembly of Heads of States and Government of the African Union in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, to return on 16 February 2026. In the interim, President Mahama had slated the occasion of the Ghana Tree Crops Investment Summit and Exhibition on 17 February 2026 for the deployment of the government's usual propaganda machine to allow the president to pretend to empathize with the cocoa farmers who have been the mainstay of the Ghanaian economy over the decades. President Mahama's performance in his address at what was termed the Maiden Ghana Tree Crops Investment Summit and Exhibition exposed the president as an opportunist who had hidden under the cover of the National Democratic ideology of the National Democratic Congress, which he joined only in 1996 to pursue a property-owning agenda. Hey, what's in Amidu? You see, one thing about Martin Amidu when he writes about His Excellency John Dramani, and you see in his letter, you are really going to see the reason why he writes with that tonation when he's talking about Mahama, right? Because Uti and Samuel Walker, especially just the last sentence I'm reading is here now. And the Mahama, he only joined the NDC in 1996. So it looks like Martin Amidu, one of the things that Martin Amidu ya and say Mahama Baba joined a party, no. Mahama Anche, I say compared to no Martin Amidu, no. Mahama joined a party, no, only in 1996. But from 1996 to 2026, which is exactly 30 years, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama has achieved a lot in the party. Baba Dani president twice, Wadani vice president, Wadani minister. I say, Martin Amidu Pessoa say, basically that's what I feel. Say, the problems with His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, and that's where it's coming from. Now, Martin Amidu is continuously going to be Martin Amidu. But I don't like it when people who know and understand better speak as though they don't know anything at all. Granted, Obienim say, on my way, Enyama biti say fuel, Enyama biti say gold, Enyama biti say cocoa, any kwansi dear politics. Because Ghana no, ye nchini kranka ya irem. Akwa say, ode nchini egu epu, insumu. It has no effect. When it comes to these commodities, Sana Ghana your economy nete. We have no effect on the prices of these things. Into the truth of the matter, they say, Sanya man, any kwansi a dear politics will chrome her. But senya your politics now politicians, they know better, but they use those things for politics. If Martin Amidu Shah say no, say Mahama da farmers because Okatro mo say oba sikase no be mo oba no wan mo sikase ya. The truth of the matter, they say yes. Sa time no die ntia Mahama, die ntia no ka say obeye ne sa. There is a reason, and Martin Amidu knows the reason. The reason was that based on the cocoa price, sa time no. Sende ohwa percentage awodema farmers na. Based on the cocoa price that particular time, and then based on the dollar value no. Exactly promise our ma no nanka sa no de be ma wo mo. But because all things are not equal in no. Obabe than a president and they who say cocoa no above from dollar rating so above from, so it has affected the price. And so if someone send American who knows better, like Martin Amidu, Eba say Mahama wa dad and no because so can say obemo musika say oba no on the more. You know unim ninti esinisa. Inti enya say bia papa no wadada nkrofo. But send ya make no, yes, maybe moving forward. Ewo ye politics ni mu no. We need to let Ghanaians understand say, listen, say me bana ebia me ba ebebe di president and me baba be ye we na current price no sandete na world market price na nko for mo a me make sure say sika me de be ma mo no eson sa next time maybe ayen kasa sa ene de meti ase. But to act as if you don't know the reason why and to say Mahama dad and Crawford and their property owning and their winning winner, it just shows your hatred and bitterness for the man. Anyway, I say culminating in the acquisition of 50 acres of land on which he had cultivated cocoa and a further 100 acres of land to cultivate oil palm as president of Ghana. It's Martin Amidu nsemo award tre mu say Mahama eba NDC mu no 1996 pe no ba NDC mu no ba no waba benya asase 50 acres e de do cocoa asanso nya asase 100 acres e de do eye abe. That's what Martin Amidu is saying. As Joy News quoted the president to have stated inter ally that Nana Kwebu Ewusi gave me 50 acres of land and I planted cocoa on the 50 acres. So I am a cocoa farmer. So when the price is reduced by the president, by the government, it affects me too. I want to be able to empathize with farmers so that when we take any policy decision, we know that it was an effect on farmers and we feel it ourselves. As my News Ghana quoted President Mahama to have said that I planted cocoa on the 50 acres, so I'm a cocoa farmer. And so when the price was reduced by government, it affects me too. I want to be able to empathize with farmers so that when we take any policy decision, we know that it has an effect on farmers and we feel it ourselves. If there is no fertilizer, if the price of fertilizer is expensive, I feel it myself because I also buy fertilizer. Also, My News Ghana concluded its reportage by stating that President Mahama also shared that he recently acquired another 100 acres of land, which he has dedicated to oil palm cultivation. Also, the foregoing statement by President Mahama flaunting his ill-gotten gains and profits under the color of his authority as President of Ghana rather conveys to me my sense of morality, legality, and justice. The reason why President Mahama does not really care about the decision of his government to reduce the poor cocoa farmers' farm gate price from 3,625 to 2,587 per bag in the name of aligning with a volatile international market. Yes, Patinamidu na asem yedin and Mahama obi ache no Mahama na abo obi di se nipa ko na ache ne asase 50 acres e na odi adokoko asanso nya 100 acres awode do abe osiane se japade we ni na Mahama nyaaye no we nya ne yi eye ill gotten ejapade na Mahama nye ni papa Ginti ono ojina so kasa Mahama nye ni papa wo ba e wati kokofo esika so owie ye no o pesa o say a so-called international way. Inti Martin Amidu, you want to tell us that you don't know, and you are saying say a so-called international aligning to international market. So Martin, you don't know. Say indeed there is something called an international market. Is that what Martin Amidu is telling us? If that's what Martin Amidu is telling us, I mean, seriously, is that what Martin Amidu is saying? Yeah, some more, Charlie. And you see, it goes back to the point I'm making. You know, there are some people who know better. Let us not do that to ourselves. Okay. At this point, I love to read from Martin Amidu, but at this point, social and somewhere working, it's like, you know. Anyway. Also, the comparison which President Mahama as a cocoa farmer made with the mass of the Ghanaian cocoa rural farmers who have sustained the cocoa industry over the decades does not demonstrate empathy, humility, and understanding. It shows what power can make of a politician who just over a year ago was soliciting the electorate for votes to allegedly enable him implement national democratic policies that will ameliorate the harsh conditions of the ordinary Ghanaian, brought about by what was perceived as mismanagement by Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo's property-owning democratic government. President Mahama became vice president and later president of Ghana between 7th January 2009 and 7th January 2017. Ghanaians restored President Mahama to the presidency on 7th January 2025 as a sign of their revulsion against former President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo's 8-year grand deception, which was acquiesced in by the New Patriotic Party, only to be informed on 17 February 2026 that President Mahama was on property acquisition spree under the color of his office as our president, contrary to the conditions of service provided for under Article 68 of the Constitution. Listen, this is really not supposed to be a big deal, right? Martin Amidu Asamoah Walker, he's acting as if say Mahama ba so na nsia no kokonya sansase. Utie His Excellency John Dramani Mahama and Asamoah Walker sansase ne Asamoah Walker. Utumi hu ne say I've not heard that, but the perception I get from Martin Amidu ni quotation ne kra no, it does not show say they recently na dey assassinate chair no. But utie say ne Martin Amidu opeso trainer Mahama assassin na wenya no and ye bone and the assassin bone and ye way and ye way and ye, for all you know, probably when he was in opposition and ye chair is assassin no. And brand no opposition at ye chair is assassin. Was it wrong for him to take it? Was it wrong for him? Me Melodies amiti he krano. Me amiti he. Do you know the number of people that were more friendly or more cast on person much me assassin? I am I don't hold any political office. Because yes, Mahama was not holding any political office at a point. I don't hold any political office. Me wo hwa obon say ya frɛ me or say oh me was asase wa down ompe. Me wo hwa me ma me ba ko bi wa frɛ me or was asase wa ha. I mean, the number of people who call me to tell me say ejuma me ye no esomweni to mo person mo che me asase no. Do you know? Me na ya meka se chale ya de bia meka wa asem me de asase ya de bia ho asem no me nya obi a me pe asem a ye atwi mu tintinte sante ya na asase ho asem de me pese me ko ho te ya no mo ka se asase wa ha meka se o dabi me ka se dabi. But yemfa ne se maje, who knows, maybe or chinebi mababe than a politician no be they throw letter just like Martin Amidu was see NDC ni na so ye che na asase na waje and they was see NDC ni no wa asase we asase born na wakwa akwaje no ye kro no asase. Are you being fair to me? It's just a question, like are you really being fair to me? So it's not like Mahama babe than a president and then ye che na asase, because on wangasa wa code of ethics ye che ni appointee se japadie bia, they have a code of ethics that was one go through. Ono ankasa wo di so. But what tie Martin Amidu nsem wo kana se ne o kan asem na ase de asem o. Ana Martin Amidu emra anyway. So he goes on or say the president could not also have acquired 50 acres of land to farm for profit and intend to acquire a further 100 acres for palm oil for profit without contravening the conflict of interest provision in Article 284 of the 1992 Constitution and other penal provisions of the law on abuse of power and office for private profits. Martin Amidu continuously is talking about the fact, say, and he's speaking as if say His Excellency John Dramani Mahama acquired the land. Or see what been at the chair no. Also Asamoah Walker can say he acquired it. Not just on no ato and on no ato and on no ato. Even if on no ato krana, there was a point where His Excellency John Dramani Mahama was a normal citizen. There was a point where he was not even the flag bearer of the NDC. Embra Mahama lose here in the 2016 elections no. Now it was say 2020 about to our mobile beto no. It was say NDC for elected another flag bearer for the 2024. during that period that Mahama Babe Lusu, you know, at that time, or a private citizen. Because now NDC for Samsung fan or Empire. Yes, your best friend the former president there. But at that time, technically, or a private citizen, he holds no public office. If it is doing that time, no be babechen as asia. You don't come out to say, Endye, Mahama no, onyasika we no kokoto asase no. Na asase na adia wakoko ye no, for private gain, for, contravene Ghana mra. A conflict of interest. Conflict of interest saying, during Mbra na onye flag bearer for the NDC. During Mbra na onye president. No we nya asase I will say a conflict of interest. Oh, Eja Martin Amidu. Asem we ya obe. Asem we ya obe say, odi baby. Hey, Charlie. Asem crazy. Anyway, won't try watch your comment box anymore. But I say.